Thanks a lot, Joe. Next up, Martin Hannigan. And is there an easy way to evaluate IXP benefits?
Thank you, Steve. You know, sometimes you get up on the stage and it's really easy, and other times you feel like Eminem and you're ready to choke. I think today I feel like the Eminem choke, but I'll try and work my way through it, and this is going to be huge. So, so is there an easy way to evaluate IXP benefits? There's been a lot of conversation in the community about how can we tell if the benefits from an IXP are good or not. This isn't about the intangible benefits, about distribution, about the community and whatnot. Those are really important, but they're also really hard to measure. There's no easy way to say what the benefit of participating in an IXP gives you in terms of picking up the phone and calling your peer and saying, hey, let's work together and solve a problem. The intangibles as well are also extremely difficult. So this is focused on kind of the bean counter view and what your accounting people may want to look at and what you may want to tell them. They may not understand the nomenclature as you try to gain traction for your different business efforts to improve the network, and this may help you to explain to them. So about me, I work at Microsoft. Today I'm going to be representing myself. I also spent some time doing work at OpenIX. I'm the chairman of the board. OpenIX is an interconnection standards group that I'm sure many of you are aware of. I'm in a program at Boston University currently, which has slightly contributed to the work in terms of giving me skills to be able to do this kind of stuff. I'm in the commercial real estate finance program. Hope to graduate in 2018. And I like numbers in Excel. They really tell you lots of different things and help you to understand what you're doing a lot better than kind of by the seat of the pants. So what is NPV? NPV is a financial calculation. It's net present value. It compares an investment today against the present value of cash flow as well into the future and discounted by a rate of return. You may have heard the term the discount rate or the yield. That's basically if you use this money to do something else, what would the expected benefit be? And you need to subtract that expected benefit from the benefits that you're trying to calculate in order to establish if you have either a net neutral or a positive business case. So in the modeling, the building of the calculations is fairly straightforward. I take all of the capital expenditures and roll them up into a number and depreciate them over a period. I take all the OpEx and roll that into a monthly recurring number. I build a calculation called effective megabits. I take what it costs me to actually deliver those bits over the exchange. And then I compare effective megabit against transit and come up with a discount megabit, and that's how I'm calculating my future cash flows and my benefits from the IXP. So if I can deliver bits cheaper across the exchange than I can over transit, without all the intangibles, of course, I have a win and I have a method to actually do an analysis. So let's play, and to work within the constructs of the room, I'm going to work with Allison, and we're going to bring up the model. And please don't modify this while I'm talking. You'll make me look really stupid, because you'll piss off a lot of IXPs as well. So I'm going to walk through this really quickly. We compounded bandwidth growth. Basically, we needed some number for growth going forward. And what I model here is worst case, base business case, and best. You always want to have your worst costs, the worst possible expenses that you might experience. Your base is maybe what you're looking at today, and your best could be your negotiating point. If we could move down a little bit. Router ports, switch ports, this is my accumulation of capital. There's my investment. This is what I need to allocate in order to participate in an exchange point. I build my depreciation from that. As you know, when you spend money on assets, they get logged to the books and they depreciate over time, not immediately, and using the depreciation built into the expenses as a measure to get to cash flows. I build in the OpEx, cross-connection, remote hands, IXP port fees. Now, these IXP port fees are not indicative of any IXP in particular, but I did build the worst case, the base, and the best case. As you can see, I picked 1,500 as my target, but when you go look at the model, there's a cell at the top of the spreadsheet that's utilization, and that's the sweet spot, the number that you want to play with to figure out what your break even in your worst case, base case, and best case business model is. If we can go down a little bit more, please. So there's our appearing OpEx. There's our net monthly recurring expenses, a function of OpEx and depreciation. And here's our NPV calculation. So NPV is looking at cash flows based on the discount megabit that I explained previously. It takes into account the discount rate, the expected yield. That's going to be different for every company. I heard one company tell me that when they do these calculations that their bean counters advise them to use 20%. For my purposes, I think 10% is more consistent. There are others that would think that 3 is more consistent. You decide that. And I run my cash flows over 5 years, and if we can go to the bottom, there are my financial benefits based on the modeling that I did. And again, not specifically modeled versus any IXP, but you can. And with that, we can go back to the slides. And there's my model. You're more than welcome to play with it. And by the way, the pink color is the responsibility of Mr. Snyder's. He had some input into this model, and that's the data that Yob has built to document port costs kind of around the world for the most extent, I believe. And if we can go to the, I have control back. So summary, do expenses matter? They do, but different expenses matter in different ways. If you look at the base case in that model, I reduced the port cost from 1,500 to 500. In this model, what was more important was the utilization of the port. The port fees over the long term and as compared to the discount megabit are significant. Everybody wants to maximize their benefits in a business case, but they may not be the end-all be-all. How do I model competitively? If you have multiple IXPs in a market, you could use this model. You can plug in the most expensive one into the worst case. You could plug in the other one into the base case, and then you can see the differences. And some IXPs negotiate, and you should use this as a negotiating tool. The differences between worst base and worst base and best case, I always get confused saying that. It just doesn't flow right. That's up to you, but always model the worst case scenario so that when you present your findings to your colleagues and your bean counters that you've thought about that, you know, how to if you're not able to get the best results, that, you know, even the worst results may look good. Again, port fees, I've discussed that, and then accounting for intangibles. I talked to Bill Norton about this, and it's not easy. Distribution matters for some networks, and for some it doesn't. There are things like golden packets that it may not matter if peering is a loser financially. That may make it a winner. I played around with yield as a discount for the impact of intangibles, and if you really want to think about this hard, make the yield 0 and see what the business case looks like and use that to account for the intangibles. But there has to be a better way. I just haven't thought of it. And with that, we have a little bit of time for questions.